Growing up, I heard the story many times, the tale of my great-grandfather, Walter Kirk Heinzig, and his family's daring escape from communist East Germany in 1952. But it wasn't until I was older that I truly understood its weight. Their journey wasn't just about survival, it was about faith, sacrifice, and the enduring power of family. The four of them, my great-grandfather, my great-grandmother, and their two children, moved quickly and quietly through the streets. Their few belongings were stuffed into 2 suitcases, all they could carry of their former life. Every shadow held danger, every footstep felt too loud. The border guards were ruthless. If caught, they would be arrested, interrogated, or perhaps worse. A secret underground group had provided them with train tickets, but it was only up to them to get past the checkpoints. My great-grandfather's boss had warned him that communist authorities were looking for him. They had discovered his religious activity, and in East Germany, practicing religion outside of state control was dangerous. The train ride to West Berlin was silent. No one dared speak. The weight of what they were leaving behind was heavy. Their homeland, their extended family, the traditions they had known. All that remained were a few pictures, a belt buckle, and small medals from my great-grandfather's time in the German army. When they finally arrived in West Berlin, a wave of relief washed over them, but their journey was far from over. For 2 years, they lived in a cramped 7 by 8 by 6 foot room in an apartment building, awaiting approval to immigrate to the United States. My great-grandfather described it vividly. If someone wanted to come in, we had to move everything. We had to put the chair underneath the table, go sideways between the beds. There was no place to sit. Yet even in those difficult times, they found joy. That Christmas, they had a tree for the first time in years. It was just 2.5 feet tall, hanging from the ceiling, and for the first time in a long time, they had chocolates. Small comforts became symbols of hope. Life had not always been like this. Before the war, my great-grandfather had lived a peaceful life. But when he was drafted, everything changed. He became an officer in the German army, and was sent to fight in Russia. During a retreat, he was hit by a grenade, and buried under rubble. Another soldier, risking his own life, pulled him to safety. That act of courage stayed with him for the rest of his life, proof that even in war, humanity endured. But the horrors of the battlefield never left him. He spoke of the deafening sounds of explosions, the fear of never seeing his family again. Life under communist rule was suffocating, but despite the risks, my great-grandfather and his family embraced the gospel. They were taught by Elder Orville Gunther, a missionary from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They continued to practice their faith in secret, even as the government tried to suppress religion. When Orville learned of their escape, he didn't hesitate. He offered to sponsor them in America, securing a job and a house for them in Utah before they even arrived. Arriving in America should have felt like the end of their struggles, but it was just the beginning of new challenges. The language barrier was daunting, especially for my great-grandmother, but my great-grandfather adapted quickly, determined to make a life for his family. He found purpose in sharing his story. He spoke to students recounting his experiences as a German soldier, offering them a perspective they have never heard before. His past did not define him, his resilience did. They held on to their German traditions, blending them with American customs. Christmas Eve was a sacred time. Presents were opened, traditional German foods were served, and Advent candles were lit. My grandmother Iris made sure her children and her grandchildren had Advent calendars from a German store in Salt Lake City, a way to pass on the peace of the old world. Yet they embraced their new country. They were grateful to live in a place where they could worship freely, where they could celebrate Christmas in peace without fear of government interference. One story has always stood out to me, a story my great-grandfather would tell at Christmas time. It was a memory from the war, a time when he and his fellow soldiers had nowhere to go on a bitterly cold night, Christmas Eve. They knocked on doors, begging for shelter. House after house turned them away, but finally a French family took them in, offering them food and warmth. That night, bombing raids destroyed homes that had rejected them, but the house that had shown kindness remained untouched. Now every Christmas we pass around a tray of German chocolates. It is a small tradition, but it reminds us of what our family endured, what they sacrificed, and what they built. I often think about my great-grandfather's journey, from war to oppression to freedom. His story is not just about survival, it is about the courage to leave behind everything familiar in search of something greater. I hope I can honor his legacy. I hope I can remain as open to the gospel as he was, as willing to help others as Orville Gunther was, and as devoted to preserving family traditions as my grandmother was, because in the end, their story is now my story, and it is a story worth telling.